Hi, I'm John Messina, host of Hey Coach, and we're going to have our second segment with our two former athletic directors and my good friends, Michael Ingwin from Martin County and Michael Stutzky from Indian River County. And we're going to continue our talk about high school athletics. One of the topics, and Michael, I know you were with me when this happened. A few years ago, we were at a FHSA Athletic Directors Clinic. And I know Dr. Deering was up there and he was talking about, you know, coaches have to know rule this and rule 1.6.7 and this and that. And I tried to say it nicely, and I hope it didn't get taken the wrong way. But I know the coaches the ADs that were with me knew what was coming. I don't think we do enough to teach coaches how to coach. Every year, we have improvements for teachers, okay? But what do we do to teach coaches how to coach, how to deal with parents, how to deal with kids that are struggling, like you mentioned with Bill Wilson, like you mentioned with Lou Saban. They learned from somebody. Why doesn't each county have classes? You know, a lot of times when I was an athletic director, you get this resume, look at this person, he's a great coach, look at his record. I would put him in scenarios. This is happening, what you're going to do. We do not, and I think it's everybody's fault. I don't think you did it in Indian River County, I don't think you did it in Martin County. We have to have classes. Now, nowadays, with the safety issues, we have a quick class on concussions, which is a 20-minute video, and I believe it should be a lot more than that. We have a quick class on heat dehydration, and it should be more than that. There should be more classes on safety procedures. We should have scenarios where you bring in former coaches, okay? Anybody can bring in a pro coach, but we're not going to deal with issues that Bill Belichick's dealing with, okay? Because he's got a staff of what? 1,000 people working for him, exaggerating a little bit. But we got to bring in high school coaches to teach coaches how to coach. What do you think about that?
I think that back in my day, when you were in the physical education and you were studying to be a physical education teacher and a coach, we had coaching classes. This was in college. And you talked about philosophy of coaching, and you talked about the theory of coaching different sports, and you talked about athletic injuries and how to deal with that and all those things. But that isn't reality on a high school campus anymore, because the first thing is you used to hire coaches to coach, and then you'd find them a teaching position. Right. Well, with the advent of testing and assessment and accountability, you know, school administrators just can't take that risk anymore of hiring a coach that's not a great teacher already. So they do that. They hire teachers, and then they hope that they can make them coaches. And the thing that is lacking there is that they are great teachers, but they may not have that understanding of the philosophy of coaching and the skills that are needed to get the kids where they need to be and to give them an opportunity to play at their best level. So absolutely, I think it's something that's needed. There are some coaching programs out there that you can go online, but that's exactly what they are. They're online courses.
Online. It's not like we're talking right now.
It's not that. It's not that one-on-one. It's not that mentoring that happens. I know that guys that I played for me are now back coaching. Right. And the mentorship, the picking up the phone and calling me, Coach, I've got this going on. How did you handle it? Remind me what you did. And those kinds of things I think are valuable. I think the coaching classes,
but not online.
No,
not online.
No.
That's the point. We were fortunate enough Monday to go down to Archbishop McCarthy, and Alex Fernandez and a few others, the coaches down there were my former players. They would call me up. Now these are guys that played in the pros. Coach, how did you do it this way? Okay, and I know now that I can't coach the kids at Martin County the way I coached the guys when I was at Pace. Right. You know, we're forgetting with the social media, we're forgetting the interpersonal deals. When we ran the state tournament over at the Met Stadium, I had a coaches meeting before each section would come in. And we had 32 teams, 36 teams at the end. We wanted to be able to talk to these coaches one-on-one. Now, it was a coaches clinic to give them rules, but I wanted to have 20 minutes. Fellas, ask me. I was fortunate enough to get to the state 10 times, okay? Ask me different things, how you would do. Now it's a class online where you can't talk back to them. How do you feel about that, Michael?
Well, I've looked at it a couple of ways. One, I think nationally we're looking at the typical high school has 40% of their coaches that come from the community, that they're not teachers. Wow. Mm-hmm. That's a very sad commentary. We have individuals who are teachers who become coaches, and here in the state of Florida, as long as you have a 5-year professional certificate, then, and I had individuals over the years that said, well, you know, I know you have this position that's open, and, you know, as a member of the bargaining unit, as a teacher here on this campus, you know, I'm qualified to be a coach. And so then, you know, you had to weigh certain things as to whether or not you wanted that individual to, in fact, become a coach at your school. There is a dire need for coaching certification in this country. And we have failed across the board in this country to provide the opportunity for individuals who want to be coaches to receive formal instruction as a coach. Oftentimes today's high school athletic administrator, sad as it is looking for that warm body to take a program until they can find someone who is uniquely qualified to be that coach.
And don't have any problems.
Exactly.
And don't have problems.
Exactly. Right. And that's very, very difficult to find. But until we have mandated that anyone who is going to be, at the very least, a head coach must be certified in their particular sport, and whether they are forced to get it online or in a formal classroom setting, and I agree, the formal classroom setting is the way to go. Let's face it, if these individuals are going to be spending as many, if not more, hours with a student than a classroom teacher does with a student, then there is a true need for formal education of coaches in today's society. And
I just think we're forgetting, maybe that's the way education is now. You can get your whole degree online, okay? Geez, I just remember the days when you could raise your hand and ask the teacher a question. Now, of course, you can email them something, but sometimes the look on somebody's face and the inflection in their voice would tell you how they feel. But I'm a big proponent, and I know I am, whoever becomes the executive director, I'm going to write a letter, not even an email, and I'm going to say, you need to do this. And I think the three of us would be pretty good at putting something on like that. But you have to, you know, we're forgetting, I think our coaches are still back 20, 30 years behind where our teachers are. Every year, all our counties, 3 different counties here, these are the improvements in teaching skills. What's our improvement in coaching skills? Have we implemented any in?
None.
You know, we have you got to watch a concussion video. That still doesn't tell you.
That is in coaching.
That's in coaching.
That is in coaching. And I think in today's world, with the involvement of parents, pressure, perceived or otherwise, that a coach has to win, that opens a whole different ball of wax, or a Pandora's box of issues that are not being addressed.
Right. Now I'm going to give you 2 subjects that you have to learn how to do. One is sportsmanship, okay? It just doesn't happen. We had a prime example the other night, and I'm throwing this in a lot. We got beat by a tremendous team. Boy, they made us feel great after the game. They never rubbed it in. They shook our hands. They wished us good luck. Those things are taught. They weren't taunting. There's so many things of sportsmanship that as a coach you need to talk about, because the kids don't understand this. A lot of times they're playing in travel ball, and there's some great travel ball coaches and teams out there. But what do you want you to represent your school? I always felt when I was at Centennial or any of the other schools I played, when my opponents came to me, that was their home field too. Of course, we batted last, or our name was on the scoreboard as home, but I wanted them to feel welcome. How can we get that across, Mike?
Again, I think it's just getting the word out. I mean, there's more to sportsmanship. There's more to teaching kids how to win with pride and dignity, and how to lose with pride and dignity. I think sometimes in today's world, we've done a disservice to those kids that win because they don't know how to win. You know, they don't know how to win with dignity. You don't point fingers and get in people's faces when you win. And that old adage, when you win, say little, when you lose, say less. You know, that is so important in teaching kids how to deal with it. And then from the losing side of things, you can lose with dignity. I mean, we don't want to lose. Nobody wants to lose. But it's the way you react to those things that come up throughout the game, and then the adversity of not being as successful as you wanted to be. We got to teach kids how to react to that.
And I'll give you 2 examples of that. If you ever watched Connecticut's women's basketball team, okay, which is probably, you know, they're very underrated in what they have accomplished. 102 straight games they have won. You know, when this airs on TV, it's probably be a little bit more. I always watch their games because I'm from that area up in northern New Jersey and everything, and I'm a big proponent of Coach Auriemma. When the other team has somebody fall down on the ground, they go pick them up. When somebody makes a great shot, I can hear them saying, boy, what a great shot. When they're ahead in the game, you know, 30 seconds to go, they just dribble out the clock. They don't take that last second shot. I can't remember this young lady's name, but a few years ago, we had a pretty good girls basketball team at Centennial. We won the district title. During the year, she was one of our guards, and she had 28 points. She had never gone to 30. And we're up by 2 at the end of the game with about 15 seconds to go. The other team's coming down to tie the game. She steals the ball. She has a breakaway layup. There's nobody near her. She just stood there and dribbled out the clock and held the ball like that. I looked at her after the game. I said, no, you could have had 30. She says, no, Coach, we won. I didn't want to rub it. I mean, that's something, and our coach had told them that at the end of the games. You watch these teams at the end of the games, they're going to put shots on her. You know, I think our professionals kind of give us the bad way, but it's so hard. You have to talk about sportsmanship, Michael. You can't just...
Well, it's leadership. It's leadership from the top down. It's the culture that takes place on a high school campus. And through your athletic director and what he or she places in front of the coaches, one of the things that I look back on is that, to me, the most important question I could ever ask a student was, are you having fun?
Yes.
Because I believe that if the student is having fun, if they are enjoying being part of that team, and as Mike pointed out, you have to learn to be a good, no one likes to lose, but if you're going to lose, you have to lose and be a class act when you lose, and you have to be a class act when you win. But if the student is having fun, that to me shows that there is an open line of communication with that coach. And the coach is the one who sets the tenor for the team. And doing things like dribbling the ball and not taking the, you know, what would be the 2 points to get to the 30. Showing everyone in the gymnasium that it is quite all right to be respectful of your opponent and to win with dignity and to lose with dignity.
And, you know, you watch these college basketball games, which I really like watching, and you see at the end of the games, they storm the court. Now, it used to be, geez, if I beat the #1 team. Now it's like, we're storming the court if we beat our rival, who's, you know, sooner or later, something is going to happen, okay? You know, how are we going to stop that in high school? Again, it's going to go down to high school level. We're going to start storming the court, or we're going to learn.
We have to have, when we say there are rules, and we know there are rules, then those rules must be enforced. Failure to recognize the long-standing rules in sportsmanship and crowd behavior expectations, failure to recognize and to enforce, you are just leaving the floodgates open for something to happen that, from an athletic administrator standpoint, that administrator and his or her principal are going to find themselves in a court of law because they did not operate their facility properly and did not take into consideration the health, safety, and welfare of the players, the coaches, and the spectators.
And it only needs to happen once.
One time.
One time, okay? My good friend Jay Stewart used to say all the time, it's not a problem till it's a problem, and it's going to happen.
So
Another topic that has changed over the years immensely is dealing with parents, okay? I know you got a smile on your face, both of you. I mean, I know when I was down in Miami and I had the Latin parents support me in baseball, they were the most wonderful people. And they supported us at Pace and some of the other places we had in all our sports when I was athletic director. I think with the advocate of so much money, I remember, you know, for many years I was on the all-state academic committee for the state. And one time we had close to 400 applicants. You had to have a 3-5. You had to play 2 or more classes. You had 2 more sports for over 3 years. My last year I was on it, we had 96. Because parents are gearing them toward one sport and they're investing so much. How many parents do you hear are pulling their kids out of high schools and putting in these academies that don't play in an association but just travel around and play sports, okay? Dealing with parents, how do we teach our coaches to do that?
I think more than anything else, I think that's kind of inbred in a good coach, is his ability to interact with parents and know where that line is at. Yeah. I don't know that you can necessarily teach a coach how to deal with parents.
But you got to put them in scenarios, right?
Yeah. I mean, certainly that way. But it's so wide and varied, and I think more than teaching the coaches how to deal with parents is having classes for parents to learn what their responsibility is, because they come up through the Little League programs or whatever it is, and a lot of them are coaches, and then they become not coaches, and they're going to be parents in the stands, and they're going to love their kid, but they also need to love the team, and
they have to understand that the high school athletic arena is so much different than what they have been involved in with the Little League. One of the big problems I think we've faced over the last 20 or 30 years is that in sports programs from T-ball on up, everybody's a winner, everybody gets a trophy, everybody gets a plaque. You get to the high school, and then there's criteria to earn a varsity letter, and there's a criteria to earn a service bar. But I think what it really does boil down to, and you mentioned the area of the country that you're originally from, a few years before I retired, I got in touch with the folks from the Connecticut Athletic Administrators Association. They have an outstanding video that they put together that is shown at parent meetings. And I went to my coaching staff and played it, and I said, I won't tell you what you have to do at your parent meetings, which are so very important to set the tone in the beginning of a sports season. However, if you take 11 minutes to show this film, trust me when I tell you, you're going to eliminate 50% of your problems. It's a wonderful video, and it's those scenarios that coaches face when a parent comes off the chain.
What we established at Martin County High School during my time as athletic director was a commitment form. And we had an athletic participation guide that kind of told the kids what the expectations were. And then we set up the letter, which we sent home to the parents, and it explained, if you are willing to support the team, if you understand that coaches will not talk to you about playing time for your kid, if you're willing to, your son or daughter has been chosen as a member of this sport, which is an honor, and if you're willing to follow these things, then sign this commitment form and everything will be good. And with that packet was an explanation to parents and to the kids of what the expectations of the programs were and what were going to be the consequences if they didn't follow the rules of the team and stuff like that. And once we implemented that, and during the time that we had that implemented, I don't think I had but maybe 6 or 7 parent conferences, and funny, every one of them was about playing time for my kid. okay, or the coach did this to my kid. The ones about playing time, I'm very straight up with them. We're not going to discuss that. That's not discussable.
For sure. I think the other thing that oftentimes is lost in this transition when kids make it to high school, parents need to be educated that the Supreme Court has made it very clear that the participation in high school sports is not a right.
It's a privilege.
It's a privilege. And that privilege can be revoked at any time if you do not follow the rules of the road that a school's athletic program has set down. If you're going to be a nuisance parent, then you need to be extracted from the equation. And oftentimes what happens is, because we're always interested in making everyone happy, no one wants to take the high road and say, excuse me, Mr. Jones, we can no longer have you out at athletic events on the campus because you disrupt what the spirit of the athletic competition is all about. It's not just about your child. It's about a team. It's about a school. It's about the community. And that higher road needs to be taken, and it needs to be constantly embedded into the culture of every incoming freshman class that you are part of a privilege and not a right.
And sometimes the coaches are caught in the middle. I remember a situation about 15 years ago. We had a regional game, boys basketball game at Centennial, and we were playing a school from Brevard County. I think it was the first round of the regionals. And there was a parent that was absolutely, positively obnoxious. But he was yelling at his own coach, and he was yelling, just going bonkers on the coach. So I sent one of my police officers over, St. Lucie County officer, talked to him, he settled down. They got up 2 seconds later and yelled at the coach. And we're trying to figure out, his kid's playing well, but he's yelling at the coach. They were losing. Then finally, we got to halftime. I says, Coach, you got to say something. I have people in the stands complaining something's going to happen. He says, John, I can't. I says, why? I said, he's the mayor. so upset.
With rank comes privilege. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
He didn't make it through the third quarter. We had 2 St. Lucie County police officers escorted him out. We just got a few minutes left, as you can see how quick this time goes by. Michael, I want you to talk about the Treasure Commission Sports Awards and also about maybe reviving the Treasure Lake Conference.
Well, first and foremost, the Treasure Coast newspapers, which now are owned by Gannett, and the Treasure Coast Sports Commission each year are putting on this gala activity. It'll be held this year, May 22nd, which is a Monday evening, 7 p.m. at the Sunrise Theater. Known in the past as Best of the Preps. Some great recognition for student athletes across the board here on the Treasure Coast. The Treasure Coast newspapers has their awards. The Sports Commission recognizes the male and female student athlete, which from each high school. It's an award that the selection is made by each high school's athletic director. This year, Florida Power and Light, along with, I believe, Jetson Appliances, one of the major sponsors. Last year, we had roughly 960 attendees. Sunrise hosts. I believe it's 1,300 seats. The goal this year is to pack the house. We're going to do some really neat things this year. We're going to recognize each school's mascot. There's some additional recognition awards. On top of that, guest speaker this year, that's going to be in the newspaper. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag.
And it's a good one. It's a good one. It's a good one. Last year we had Jason Taylor, who's just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. So, and this one is as good. As good.
So, I mean, it's very exciting. And then, speaking of a conference, when we had the opportunity to have dinner a few weeks ago, and we were talking about some of the things we enjoyed as athletic directors, and one of them was the conference, which back in the day was known as the Treasure Lake Conference. At our meeting with high school athletic directors a week and a half ago, at the end of the agenda, I brought to the attention of the ADs that were present this, I think, great, very warm conversation we had about what it was like when there was a conference here on the Treasure Coast. And every athletic director in attendance agreed that it was time to once again look at creating a conference here on the Treasure Coast. And I think when when some old war horses like the three of us get together, incubate some ideas, and we share it to the next generation. Some positive things can come out. So I think that's going to be an exciting thing for the Treasure Coast to look forward to in the very near future, and that is a conference of which all 18 schools, public and private, will become part of.
And if I'm trying to go up and down the coast, everybody's got a conference, if I'm not mistaken, right?
They do.
Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, Brevard, West Coast. I know Tampa, Orlando has one, and we're missing a conference in here now. How many years were you athletic director?
8.
How many were you?
22.
I was 30. Okay, what's the average span of an athletic director? I know you throw this out.
4 years, 8 months.
4 years, 8 months. I think we beat that. In the 2 minutes we got left, if you had to come back as an athletic director, and I know we're not, okay, what would be the one change you would want to see?
I think John, we've talked about it, but I think one of the biggest changes is to make sure that we have staffed properly for athletic trainers for our programs.
Right.
To make sure that we are doing the best we can do to take care of our student athletes and their injuries and their concerns, and we're not putting coaches in a position that they don't need to be in. I
would agree with you. I would push that every high school would have a trainer on campus, sort of like a teacher trainer, just to educate, you know, of course it's for prevention, but just to educate everybody too, because look at all the procedures they're doing in college and the pros, and even there was a big story on TV the other day, NASCAR is going to have their own medical staff travel going from place to place each week.
And as both of you know, and it was one of the things that I, quite frankly, was very proud of in my 22 years at Sebastian River. From day one, we had a full-time athletic trainer. And I've always believed in it, and I think that it is something that an athletic program shouldn't exist unless there is a full-time certified, licensed athletic trainer on the campus. So I would agree with you. I think across the board it's something that's needed.
It's the biggest thing. And that's something that I think hopefully the new executive director can get together with the state legislature and work together to fund to have this trainer who's at the school as a teacher also. But time went quick, huh? We did 2 shows, even though we're showing them in different months. But I want to thank you guys. I know we had a lot of fun all the years we've been doing this. We got to go. We got to go to practice.
We got to go to practice.
We got to go to practice today.
Okay.
Thank you, John, for just the passion that you have for athletics.
Absolutely, John.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my old years. But I want to thank everybody for watching another edition of Hey Coach.